And without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Esmeralda, who will be our workshop facilitator. So, Esmeralda, you have the stage.
Great. Thank you. I assume everyone can hear me. Um, so thanks everyone for joining. I'm very excited to be walking you through this workshop today. Before we get started, let me tell you a bit about myself and my journey to indicative and product. So I'm originally from Southern California, and I moved to New York for college, where I went to NYU Stern and studied business. I had always loved technology. I was a math nerd all through school. I even took math electives for fun in college, which people told me is nuts. And fast forwarding a few years, I started at Indicative as an SDR. I've had the opportunity to grow and learn a ton over the past few years and now head up product and sales engineering at Indicative. And I'm excited to share with you all today how to measure the success of new features and product launches. So before we dive into that, let me tell you a bit about the platform that we're going to be using, which is Indicative, to measure the success of those product launches. So Indicative is a product analytics platform that helps you build better products using analytics. Indicative was designed for the business user. So you don't need to have any technical experience in order to use Indicative, as you'll see shortly. And we typically work with product, marketing, and analyst teams to help them understand how their users interact with their business. We are also the only product analytics platform that was built to connect directly to the data warehouse. And lastly, we are hiring on the product side. So we're actually hiring for a product intern and product manager. So if you're interested, stay engaged and stay until the end. So to get into what exactly we're going to be covering today. So today we're going to be covering really understanding a few questions. So first is establishing some baseline metrics around what is engagement with this new feature, what touch points are driving conversion to for users to use this new feature, how are they using it, and then what impact, if any, is that feature having on revenue, and what impact does that feature have on retention? Is it sticky? And so to follow along, this is meant to be an interactive workshop. So please go to that link. And then Tara, if you could please post the link in the chat so it's easy for people to click on, that would be great. So click on that link, follow the steps to gain access to the demo sandbox environment so that you're actually able to build the analysis along with me. We'll be looking at the same data set. And while you do so, I'll spend a minute explaining why it's important for product teams to use and analyze behavioral data. So to begin, behavioral data is data that shows who's using your product, what features they're using, and how they're using it in relation to other product features. So tracking, collecting, and most importantly, using this data to derive insights is a vital part of building modern roadmaps and measuring the success of each release. So to actually analyze and operationalize this data, you're going to need a product analytics solution like Indicative. Product analytics makes it easier to turn this raw behavioral data into actionable insights by helping you do things like visualize your customer journey, identify points of friction, and understand user behavior. And so last slide, before we jump into the analysis, is the goal. So what is the goal of the analysis that we're going to be building? For the purposes of this workshop, we're going to be using Petbox data. So Petbox is a fictitious pet e-commerce company. They have a blog, an app, they sell products online. They also have a monthly subscription box of pet foods and toys. Again, this is a fictitious company. And they recently launched a new product, which is a webcam to watch your pet while you're away, which you can access via the app. And so the company's main objective is to increase product revenue via subscriptions through the usage of this product. And this objective is critical to understand because let's say the objective was to increase engagement with the blog or to increase the sale of one-off products, we would be asking very different questions of the data. So now that we've established the goal, let's dive in. Okay, so everyone should now be in the demo environment. If you're not, please, again, go to that link that's in the chat. And so you should all see this demo dashboard. And so first, I'm going to talk a bit about how the behavioral data is typically structured. And then we'll go over the various tools that we'll be using and the types of analysis that they are for. And then finally, we'll actually dive in to the meat of the workshop, which will be really building out that analysis. Can't see the link in chat. Can someone reshare? Tara, if you could please reshare. Maybe reshare periodically as if people are coming in later. Thank you. And so, great. And so first, I'm going to go over and talk a bit about how the data is set up within a product analytics platform like Indicative. So if everyone could please click on Analyze, and then let's just select the first tool. So let's select Segmentation. And then on the right-hand side, we're going to see this data dictionary. So select that data dictionary. And so here you'll find all of the data that is integrated with this particular project. And so first we have events. So events represent a user action. For example, downloading the app, opening the app, creating a profile, clicking on a link, anything that a user does is considered an event. In addition to events, we have event properties. So event properties describe the dimensions or the metadata associated with a particular event. So for example, what browser were they using? What's their device type? Are they a subscriber? If so, what's their subscription plan? So again, all around understanding the context for a particular event. Then we have user properties. So user properties are attached to a user. For example, if you have any demographic information, their name, their subscription status, these are all attached to a user and would be represented as user properties. And then lastly, we have user segments. And so user segments are actually behavioral segments that are created within the application itself based off of behaviors and characteristics of the users. So for example, most engaged or least engaged users, users that did or didn't do a particular behavior and came in through a specific marketing channel. Any of the analysis, a group of users can be saved as a user segment. All right, great. So now that we've established kind of the foundational knowledge on event data, let's dive into the dashboard. So you guys will not actually be able to see this dashboard yet. So I'm more giving you a sneak peek into the dashboard that we will be creating together. But before we create an analysis, I want to first cover the types of tools that we're going to be using. So at the top here, we have segmentation. So segmentation, we can see there are some key metrics like DAU and MAU, so daily active and monthly active users, some basic time series analysis grouped by, in this case, device type, and then different types of visualizations and a custom calculation. All of this created within the segmentation tool. Then we have frequency. So frequency allows us to measure engagement for a specific feature. Moving further down, we have journeys. So the journeys tool is a very powerful analysis, which allows you to explore and understand what your customer journey is before or after certain behavior. Moving further down, we have a traditional funnel tool, which allows you to identify points of friction and where people are dropping off in the journey, conversion rates and counts of converted users. And then here we have the multipath funnel, which really makes Indicative unique. So we are the only analytics platform that allows you to compare different user flows in a single visualization. And so we'll dive into this in a moment. And then lastly, we have the cohort tool. So cohort allows you to analyze retention, engagement, and activation. So really understand when are users coming back and how often are they coming back. So now we are ready to actually get started with recreating all of this analysis. First, we're going to create a blank dashboard. So if everyone can navigate over to Views and then click on New Dashboard here. And so let's name this dashboard. Maybe I want to name it, let's actually name it Pet Cam Launch. And I want to save it into a folder. So I already have my product school folder, so I'll save it into there and then create this. And so now if I search for it, what did I call it? Pet Cam Launch. I have this blank dashboard that I can start adding analysis to. So we're going to start by first recreating those baseline usage metrics that we saw on the dashboard. So for that, we're going to do a segmentation analysis. So I'm going to select New and then select Segmentation Widget. So I'll add that. And here we have a blank segmentation query. And so all of the query building is going to happen in this area, which we call the query builder, very creative name. And we're going to select a particular event. And so if you click on here, you can see all of the events that we are able to use that are integrated with the platform in this sandbox environment. And so first, we just want to understand how many people are using the pet cam. How many people have used it over the past 7 days? Also, as I create this analysis, I'm going to start asking for insights. If you guys find any insights or have any, input, and also please feel free to type any questions in the chat as we go on, or just turn your audio on. Happy to answer questions. So first, we're going to actually change this from the total count of to unique users, because what we want to know is how many users are engaging with this new feature. And so I'm going to put in Open Pet Cam. So I searched for pet, and here I can see Open Pet Cam, and then I can run this. And here we will see a line chart of all of the users who opened the pet cam within the last 7 days. So let's actually expand this to be over the last 30 days. So if I expand that, so I did that fairly quickly. To follow along, just click on that date range selector, select the last 30 days, and then you can run that now. And so here we can see how usage changed over the last 30 days. One thing I also always like to do is turn on data labels. I don't want to have to eyeball this across to the y-axis. So if I select any data point, I can turn data labels on. And so here I will see all of the data labels for this particular chart. So now I'd like to ask, does anyone see anything interesting with this analysis? Anything anybody wants to share?
Very quickly, I can say that the users on the weekends are low because perhaps the users stay home and they don't want to use the app, and they would actually monitor the pets by themselves.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. So here we can see on the weekends, people are not engaging with the pet cam. They're very likely at home, like you said. And we can see that the high engagement days are more during the week. And so maybe this is telling us that we should coordinate with marketing to see if we want to focus our marketing efforts during the week when people are missing their pets, and maybe play around with those different dates now that we can see that usage changes dramatically based off of what day of the week it is. So great insight. Thank you. Great. So now let's actually add this to our dashboard. So to add something to your dashboard, we're first going to want to rename it. So let's name this Pet Cam Engagement. Let's actually name this Daily Pet Cam Engagement. Did I spell something? Yeah, there we go. And to save it, I want to click Save as New and then Widget. And so I'm going to want to select that dashboard that I created. It's already selected for me, so make sure you have the appropriate dashboard selected and then click Save. And so now you'll notice you see this breadcrumb here that shows you have this analysis now saved onto that dashboard. So now let's start to create some of those metric widgets that we saw. So for that, I'm going to change this chart type. So currently we're looking at a line chart that's smoothed out. I'm going to want to change this to a metrics. And I only want to look at the aggregate. So I just want to look at the monthly active users. And so here, now we will see how many unique users opened the PetCam within the last 30 days. We can see it's 294,000. I want to now change this name to PetCam MAU, and I can either override my existing analysis that I saved, or I can save it as a new analysis. So I want to add it. I don't want to override the first one. So I'm going to save as a new widget, and then again, PetCam launch, save. And so now within a few minutes, if that, we've added our first two widgets to our dashboard. And so I'll skip over daily active. Basically, if you want to do daily active, you just change this from average, whoops, to, yeah, I messed it up. You just change it to average. And so now we have the average daily active users, and you can add that as well. And so as a next step, I want to start to understand who are these people? How are they engaging? What are they using? So for that, I'm going to first look at what device type are they using to access their PetCam. So I'm going to group by device type. So I can see that's one of the top ones here. And I'm going to change this. I wanted to look at it as a line chart. So I'll change it back to a line chart, and then I'll run this. And so now we'll find a few different series representing the different types of devices that people are using. And so I'll notice here also my legend has the row name in it every time. Let's clean that up. Let's remove some of the noise in the legend. So for that, I'm going to hover over my query row. So here, each row is a query row. I'm going to hide labels. And I'm going to, again, turn on my data labels. So I'm going to hide the row label, turn on my data label. And let's actually collapse the query builder as well, so we can just focus on this chart. And so now we can see kind of what devices are more often used or least often used. Now, does anyone have an insight to show here based off of this analysis?
Hi, this is Saida. Just wanted to let you know that I think the iPhone users are the majority who uses the pet webcam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, definitely. So here we can see pretty dramatically that the iPhone by far has the highest count of users. And we can see really mobile devices have the highest count of users, whereas tablets have the lowest, with desktop being in the middle. So, maybe that tells me people are more likely to be using their mobile devices while they're on the go, which makes absolute sense compared to those that are on a desktop or a tablet. I also imagine less people actually even have an iPad or an Android tablet. So one thing I'm going to be interested in as a next step is really to understand how much of my overall user base is using each of these devices. Does conversion rate for actually connecting and using the PetCam or upgrading to the subscription vary based on device type? So we'll actually explore some of those questions later on. But for now, we can see that yes, iPhone does have the highest count of unique users in terms of engagement. Thank you. Great. And so now let's say I want to change my query again. And let's say I want to see what type of subscribers are engaging with the PetCam. Are they subscribed? Are they not subscribed? And so here, I'm going to, I don't know why I wrote that. I'm going to look up subscription plan. All right, so I'm going to group by the subscription plan, and I actually want to see this as a pie chart. So switch this to subscription plan and then change the chart type to a pie chart. Also, before you do that, don't forget to save your widget. I forgot, but you guys don't have to forget. So pie chart, save that. And so here, now we can see a very simple pie chart showing what subscription plan people are on. So I just want to point out how easy it is to just slice and dice the data any way you want using any of the properties that are integrated instead of having to, ask a data analyst to build this out for you, have follow-up questions. You can answer all of those follow-up questions on your own directly in here, which is incredibly powerful as a product manager. And so here, does anyone have an insight here? All right, I will go. So fairly obvious, right? That none makes up almost half of all of the users. So that's telling me, almost half of the users are not existing subscribers. So maybe that's an area of opportunity. So maybe I want to actually save this as a user segment and send them some messaging. Hey, see you're using PetCam, not subscribed. Here's the value you would get from the subscription and how it complements your usage of this feature or this product. And so to do that, we can actually save this user segment. And so I'm going to select that group in the pie that I want to save. I'm going to create a user segment. And so I'm going to name this user segment, let's call it PetCam non-subscribers. Going to select a category. So in this case, probably makes sense to be a marketing category since I'm going to want to market to them. And I want this to be dynamic, meaning that it will update on a daily basis. So I'm going to save that. And so now you'll be able to, if you go back to your data dictionary, you'll see that user segment saved in there. You can use the user segment API to export that user segment to a marketing automation platform of choice to then send them some personalized messaging. Another question I now have is, so all of these users, I wonder if the PetCam had any impact on them actually subscribing, or were they already subscribers beforehand? That is something we will explore later on when we look at the funnel tool. And so now the last thing we want to do in segmentation is create a calculation. So I want to see out of my mobile users, how many of them are actually using the PetCam. So for that, I will now actually remove this subscription plan. So I'm going to remove the group by, and I'm going to change this to people who are only on a mobile device or a tablet, since that is where we have our application. So I'm going to add a filter instead. So let's select filter where, and then I'll select device type. And I'll do device type is not equal to, and we'll do desktop, since everything else is a mobile or device or a tablet. And then I want to compare that to all of my app users. So I'm going to put in open app, and I'm going to change this to users who performed. And the last thing I'm going to do is create a calculation. And so if I click on this, I can see I now have the ability to create calculations. So I want to look at this as a percentage. So I'm going to do open PetCam out of everyone who opened the app, and I want to select that percentage. You can see there are various types of calculations you could create here, but for these purposes, we want a percent. Oh, and I see this is in full range right now. I want to change my interval, let's say weekly. Let's look at this on a weekly interval. So now we are ready to run the analysis.
Esmeralda, how did you get to the calculation or the?
Yeah, yes. So the way that the calculation was inserted here is, again, clicking on this in the query settings. So selecting this calculation and then inputting my numerator and denominator, and then selecting that percentage. Also, to modify it, if maybe you put in the wrong order or you want to modify it, you can actually just click on the calculation that's already inserted, and then you can change things here. Right. And so again, turn on these data labels. And so here I can see that a little bit over half of my app users are using the PetCam. So that's really good. Most of the users in the app are engaging with and using that new product, being the PetCam. So now I want to, let's actually rename these rows to be a little cleaner. So we'll rename this to Open PetCam. And now I'm going to save it as a new widget as well. Let's rename this. Actually, so let's name it how many app users use the PetCam. I like putting in the question that we're answering as the name of the query, and then save as new widget. And then we'll save it again to that PetCam dashboard. And at the end, we will go through how to actually organize that dashboard. All right, so now that we are all done with segmentation, let's go over to frequency. And so to go over to frequency, we were in results mode previously. So we're going to want to click on results and select frequency. And we're going to want to remove this device type. And let me explain a bit about, again, what frequency is. So frequency allows you to look at engagement of a certain feature. So for example, how many times a day or how many days a week, even how many weeks a month are people engaging with this? For our purposes, we want to look at how many days a week do people use the PetCam. And so we're going to change our date range. Let's look at 90 days since we want to look at weekly engagement. Our interval is already set to weekly, so we're good there. And we want to group it by how many days a week they are engaging. So changes to daily, and we're going to run this. And so here we can see a line chart of how many users are engaging with the PetCam a certain number of days a week. We can see overwhelmingly the majority of users engage with the PetCam only 1 day a week. And let's actually, I like viewing this as a percentage. So instead of looking at the users as a count, just click on this and change it to percent. So now we're going to look at as a percentage. Right now, I can also see we're only looking at the top 5. Let's change this to all so we can see all breakouts. And the last thing is, let's look at this as a stacked bar chart. So I'm going to run this, turn on my data labels. And so here we can see fairly consistently about 84, 85% of the users that are engaging with the pet cam on a weekly basis are doing so only 1 day a week. We can also see 10%, which is still significant, or 2 days, and then we start to get into the lower percentages. So maybe from here, I want to dig deeper into who are the people that are using it 5 to 7 days a week? What are their characteristics? So for that, I would create a user segment, save that user segment, and then use it in further analysis to start to look at what are the characteristics of those highly engaged users. And maybe I want to compare that to the people that only use it 1 day a week. So there's a lot of questions that can arise from here, and many ways to then explore those questions using a product analytics platform like Indicative. So now we are going to shift gears and explore a new tool. So now that we established some pretty baseline metrics for engagement, we want to answer some more complex questions like, how are people getting to the pet cam, and what are they doing after they use the pet cam? And so for that, I want to look at my journeys tool. So let's click on Analyze and then go to Journeys. And it reminds me, okay, don't forget to save your analysis. So save it as a widget, save it to the dashboard, save it there. All right, now let's go over to Journeys. And so I'm actually going to clear this. So starting from scratch, I want to understand what are the most common paths to opening the pet cam? So what are people doing leading up to opening the pet cam? So I'm going to change this from starting with to ending with, and then I'm going to put in open pet cam. Then I'm going to run this. And so what this is going to show is a Sankey diagram showing all of the most common paths that people took to opening the pet cam. And so Indicative will show you all of the most common paths. Let's actually just narrow this down a bit to the more important ones. So I'm going to change my threshold from 5 to 10%. So you'll notice here between the steps, it shows what percentage of each step does that event represent. So open app represents 6% of this step. The threshold is 5. Let's change it to 10. So we only look at events or actions that represent at least 10% of each step. And so here we can see that people prior to opening the pet cam are opening the app, which makes sense, but they're also purchasing a product and having a site visit. And so let's actually say we want to understand what is driving people to open the pet cam. We know we already put in some marketing efforts to
Sorry,
drive.
Esmeralda.
Yeah.
Just quickly, how do you read this chart?
Yeah.
Like, what's the first step? What's the second step? Because there are many steps.
Yeah, definitely. So the way that this ending with journeys chart works is we're actually looking at things leading up to an event. So open pet cam, the immediate preceding step prior to opening the pet cam, in this case, 86% of the users open the app. 14% performed other events that don't make up at least 10% of that step. Now, moving further back, the step number 2 prior to opening the PetCam is a site visit and purchasing a product. So I see there's a question is there any other visual type to view this journey? So to view this particular analysis where we are showing what the most common paths are, this is the only visualization that we have. But I will also show in the next example how we can use a funnel tool to show a more specific journey that we're looking at, or a more specific funnel. But for now, for the journeys analysis, the exploratory tool, this is the only viz. And so here we can see, again, the second most common step, or the second prior step to opening the PetCam is having a site visit or purchasing a product. And then you just go farther back to see, what were the steps prior to that, to those steps. And so let's say, we already know we put in many marketing initiatives to lead people to opening the PetCam, and we want to understand which one of those are working. So we can see here there's email delivered. So it looks like some people are opening these emails and then going to open the PetCam. But we can also expand an event. So let's expand site visit. So I'm going to click on site visit. Then I'm going to click expand event. And I'm going to put in a marketing channel. So I'm searching for marketing channel. I'm going to put in marketing channel and run this. And so what that's going to show is what are the different marketing channels that led to that site visit. And so here we can see the most common marketing channel is direct, followed by organic, and then followed by email and paid. So it looks like the most common ways that people are getting to opening the PetCam and really opening the application is through some organic and direct means. But it does look like email and paid are contributing a significant portion of people opening the PetCam. So, if I were on the marketing side, I would want to understand what email campaigns are working, what paid sources. So is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Is it paid search? A bit more information around specifically what campaigns are working and what's not working. And so that's something you could dig into further here. You could further expand maybe by email campaign or email subject, or expand by marketing source in addition to marketing channel. So there are many ways you can then dig into to further understand how people are getting to opening the PetCam. Any questions here before I actually go over to the next journeys example? Okay, so let's actually now see what are people doing after they connect their PetCam. So what are some of the first things that they do after? So for that, I'm going to change this from open to connect PetCam. And I'm going to change this from ending with to starting with. And now I'm going to run this. And so here, I am now seeing the most common journeys after someone is connecting their PetCam instead of leading up to opening it. And so here I can see the most common action is opening the app. 48% of users are opening the app, which makes sense. It looks like 17% are coming back through an email. So maybe, we send an email saying like, congrats for opening your PetCam. Looks like 17% are actually clicking on that email and coming back. And then further down, and we can see that we're getting some good conversion on purchasing products. So it looks like after people connect the PetCam, they are also purchasing products, which is really good to know. Maybe another next step is what types of products are they purchasing? If I have like a product type or product category, I can expand on that and dig deeper into that. But the point of this journeys analysis is to really communicate how easy it is to explore what are the most common paths our users are taking before or after certain behavior, so that you can start to understand what the user behavior looks like, and then make decisions or ask further questions because of that. And so that is it for journeys. So now let's actually move over to the funnel tool. Before that, I'm actually going to want to save this to my dashboard. So I'm going to change this journeys starting with Connect PetCam. Actually, that works. Save as new, save it as a widget, and then save it to that PetCam launch dashboard. So now I'm going to move over to the funnel tool. I'm going to clear this. And so the funnel tool is really great for understanding points of friction, where people are dropping off, and looking at those counts and conversion rates. And so we're going to look at the setup funnel for PetCam. So for that, we know that the funnel starts with someone downloading the app. So we'll go to download app. They first have to create a profile before setting up their PetCam. So we'll look at create profile. Next, they have to connect their PetCam. And then they have to open their PetCam. And so now I'm going to run this. And so here we can see using the multipath donuts, we can look at the funnel. But our goal is to understand drop-off. So the best chart for analyzing drop-off is actually a different one. So if I'm going to go over to this chart builder or chart selector and change this to a stacked bar chart. So here now I can much more clearly look at where are people dropping off. So here I can see that if people connect the PetCam, they are very, very, very likely to actually use it. You can see that conversion rate is 95%. If I look at the prior steps, I can see these are a bit lower. Again, this is demo data, so these would actually be pretty great conversion rates. But here we can see that the biggest point of friction is between creating a profile to actually successfully connecting the PetCam. And so what I would then want to investigate is, I'd want to actually put in some more steps in between. If I had the data. For example, maybe to connect the PetCam, there's a few different screens. So I'd want to put in those screens and identify, is there a particular screen that has a higher drop-off than other screens? Same for create profile. Are there different steps in creating a profile? And if so, which step has the highest drop-off? And being able to identify that information, I can then dig deeper into trying to identify what the reason for that is and make some product adjustments based off of those insights. Yes, exactly, Justin. He said you can identify which screens need some UI UX love. That's exactly right. And so now let's see if we can identify any differences based off of what device they're using. So very often there will be different bugs in the iOS versus the Android applications, or there's just different experiences, different types of users. So let's actually group by the device type to see if there are differences in the conversion rates. So if I can run that. And so now I have this visualization grouped by my device type. And so down below, I like looking at the chart or at the table area and sorting by conversion. So if I sort by here, I can see the conversion between downloading the app to creating a profile is highest on an Android tablet, actually, and lowest on an Android device. So maybe there's something wrong with the mobile experience. Maybe it's easier to create a profile on a larger tablet. And I want to dig deeper into that. And let's sort now by the conversion of the entire funnel. So I can see the entire funnel. The iPad actually has the highest conversion rate, with still the Android being the lowest by a significant amount. So here you can start to isolate different reasons for why there are differences in the conversion rates and where are those points of friction. And again, you can slice and dice this using any of the metadata that you have, maybe like app version, maybe location, maybe different geographies perform better. And so there are many insights you can glean from this. So now let's actually save this to our dashboard. So let's save that as new, save it as a widget, and then save it to my dashboard. All right, great. And so now let's actually move over to creating a multipath funnel. So the multipath funnel is a great way to compare two different visualizations, actually as many as 16, but in this case, we're just going to look at 2, to measure the impact a certain action has on conversion. So we know that our goal was to get people to subscribe to our pet box through the use of this webcam. Maybe the app has some call outs to the subscription. So we want to see, is PetCam actually driving subscriptions? So for that, we're going to clear this. And then I'm going to put in a site visit. And then, so follow along, we're going to put in create a profile. Next, we're going to put in opening the PetCam. Then people open the app. And then lastly, we're going to put in subscribing. And so if I were to run this, we would just see the traditional funnel that we just saw. But to actually make it a multipath funnel, I'm going to unpin this step. So I'm unpinning opening the PetCam. And then I'm going to run this. And so here what we'll see is the 2 journeys, or the 2 funnels compared side by side. And let's take a look at some of these counts. So here we can see 106,000 users had a site visit. Of these, 74% created a profile, then ultimately resulting in 1,300 people subscribing for those who did not open the PetCam. If I toggle over to those who did open the PetCam, I can see that there were 33,000 users that subscribed. So this is telling me that at least people opening the PetCam are more likely to subscribe. But I actually want to compare some of the conversion rates to see if that's really the case. So let's focus on this conversion rate. So for people that opened the PetCam, for people who opened the application, who had not opened the PetCam, only 18% subscribed. For those who had opened the PetCam, I can see that increased in few multiples to almost 53%. So this is telling me that, yes, people that are opening the PetCam are actually more likely to subscribe. And maybe I want to send them some personalized messaging, because we already identified in a prior analysis that half of our PetCam users are not subscribers. So that really seems like a good opportunity to market to them, maybe in app and outside of the app. So maybe in the app, I want to send them some push notifications, or I want to kind of modify their UX slightly to highlight the value of the subscription box, if I know that they have the PetCam. And so there's a lot you can get from this. This is just the simplest form of the multipath funnel, but again, really great for comparing user journeys side by side to really measure the impact that one behavior has on another. And so lastly here, I want to see, does marketing channel influence conversion as well? So let's actually group by marketing channel. So I'll group by that. And so we can see that we can see this grouped by the marketing channel. And so Does anyone have an insight that they want to share here before I take over on the insights? Okay, so I will go. So it looks like content actually has the highest conversion rate to subscribing. And so maybe this is telling marketing is producing really valuable, great content that communicates the value of the subscription. Maybe I want to actually surface this content in the app. I know right now it's only on our website. Maybe I also want to, send emails using this content. I want to explore what particular content is actually resonating with this group of users. So I can do that by further filtering and slicing and dicing the data to really dive into, what is that highest converting content. And then I can see email has the lowest rate of conversion. It looks like it has the highest count of people actually going to the site, but the lowest rate of conversion. So it looks like an opportunity for optimization. Maybe I want to improve the experience of people, or maybe they're not exactly getting what they're looking for. Lots of questions to dive into just by this analysis. So it looks like Everton had a question. I wonder if we can save presets or actions we take frequently and repeatedly to use for different customers. So I'm not sure I completely understand the question, but essentially I imagine there are certain events or actions that we want to analyze frequently. So what you can do is all of the data can be categorized or tagged. And so essentially in the data dictionary, you'll notice here that every event has a description, and you can add like a hashtag something in here as well. So maybe you want to, hashtag favorite. And then when you search for an event here, you'll see that come up. So for example, like if I look for, let's see, so if I look for like pet bucks, I can see that I'm also searching for the description of it. Secondly, you can also categorize them. So here you can see this is categorized by app events. We have some custom events, marketing email events. So there are many ways to organize the data in a way that works best for you and your team. If that doesn't answer your question, please chime in. But that is one thought I had based off of that question. And so last tool that we have to go through, and I know we are almost out of time, is our cohort analysis. So first, let's save this to our dashboard. Save that, save it. And so now we want to see, so now that we identified that people are likely to subscribe if they open the pet cam, I want to understand when are they subscribing? So here we can see the average conversion time is 2 hours for those that did open the pet cam. But I actually want to look at this a bit more granularly. So let's actually go over to Analyze and select Cohort. So here I'm going to, so cohort again allows you to look at engagement, retention, and in this particular case, activation. And so I'm going to put in connect pet cam as how I'm defining my cohort. So my cohort is going to be my group of people that have connected the pet cam. And then I want the target behavior to be subscribe. So I'll put in subscribe. Let's keep it last 30 days. Let's actually change this to weekly. And then I want to group this by the week that they connected their pet cam. So I'm going to put in week of connect pet cam. Then I'm going to run this. And so let's actually change this from a circle heat map to a heat map. And so here we can see that the majority of people, one last thing, let's change this from recurring to first time, because we want to look at the first time that they subscribed. And so here we can see overwhelmingly, the vast majority of people are subscribing within the first 7 days. That's represented by week 0 is the first 7 days. after they connected their pet cam. And so we can see there's a fairly short window of opportunity here to get people engaged with that subscription. So I actually want to dive into this a little more. Instead of looking at this on a weekly basis, let's look at this on a daily basis. So if I do that, I can see that again, most of the people are actually converting within the first 24 hours. So what this is telling me is I need to coordinate with marketing to make sure that our marketing efforts are aligned with this timeline, to make sure that we're really hitting the users at the optimal time to get them to convert. Great. So now as a next step, I also want to look at what about marketing channel? Are there specific marketing channels that are more effective? So for that, instead of grouping it by the week, I'm going to group it by the marketing channel here. So I'm going to select marketing channel. I'm going to run this. And so here we can see I can sort. Overwhelmingly, people that come in through direct have the highest conversion rate. So maybe they already know what they're looking for. Like they already know, but and we can see second is referral. And so we have a referral program in place. This is specifically what this is related to. And it looks like people that come in through referrals have a very high conversion rate. And I can see organic has the lowest by far, with email being low, but not as low as organic. And so again, this is just another way to look at that view of how are people converting and who is converting, and how are they engaging with this new feature and what impact does that have on conversion or activation or retention. And now I'm also going to save this to my dashboard. So I know we are almost out of time, but to just quickly show you how you can organize your dashboard, it's very easy to just reorder the analysis in the way that you want to. So you can just click and drag on the analysis to move it where you want. You can also resize the widgets, how you'd like to visualize and share the data. So I'm just organizing a little bit here. And you can also schedule reports. So for that, I'm going to click on reports. Say I want to create a new scheduled report that I want to send to my team. Have to enable print mode for that. And so here I can now see exactly what this would look like were I to send it to the team, and I can make sure it looks ready to be shared. And from there, I will then, again, select who I want to send it to. I can send myself a test or save it at a specific cadence. Okay, I know we are at time. So just last thing, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to shoot me an email or actually post in the chat. I can stay on for a few minutes after. You can register for a free account as well here. And we are also hiring. So again, we're hiring for a product intern and a product manager. So if you're interested, feel free to find me on LinkedIn, message me, let me know that you attended this workshop. Thanks everyone for joining. I'll stay on for a few minutes in case anyone has questions. Maybe a few seconds. All right, thanks everyone. Like I mentioned, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email or connect with me on LinkedIn. Have a good one.
Awesome. Thank you.